Hi, my name's Louisa from Global English TESOL courses, and today I'm going to be talking about some huge changes that are likely to be happening in the Chinese English education market to kids. So if you're involved in tutoring English online to Chinese kids with companies like DadaABC, VIPKids, Magic Ears, Wales English, then you do need to hear this because there are some huge changes potentially coming down the line. I'll be looking at what these changes are, the implications for you, and some ways to mitigate that and perhaps help to future-proof your career as an online educator. So what exactly is changing? Well, there's a new policy directive come out of China called the 720 policy. And while not law, it's more of a policy directive, there are 5 major measures which, if adopted and become law, are going to have major implications for the industry. So here are the 5 major things that will be happening or likely to happen. So the first thing is all ESL companies will have to register as non-profit. Now that is huge because commercial investors in the sector will just leave the sector entirely. Secondly, there'll be a ban on foreign curriculum and textbooks, and as we know, a lot of the ESL companies do rely on that. Thirdly, there'll be a regulation around when and how juniors can have classes. So, for example, there'll be no classes beyond 9 o'clock at night, no weekend classes or holiday classes, which again is huge. Fourthly, there'll be an outright ban on online tutoring to preschoolers. Now that's a huge market with huge implications. But perhaps the biggest one is number 5, and that is they're proposing a ban on hiring of teachers from outside mainland China. So what's driving these changes? I think it'd be really good to try and understand some of the government's motivation here so we can better appreciate the direction of travel. So what the government aims to do, one of the key drivers, is it wants to improve the birth rate in China. In China, most families only have one child, and that's partly because they pour huge resources into that child. There's a lot of academic pressure, so a lot of money goes on tuition, academic success. That puts a lot of pressure on kids. There's a lot of financial burden on the family themselves. So what the government hopes to do is break the link between commercial provision and education and have the state step in to provide a lot of those services. So wraparound childcare outside of school hours for working parents, for example, will now be undertaken, or is proposed to be undertaken, by the state. And they won't just be focusing on academics. They'll be doing things like sport and other things that promote sort of more holistic, well-rounded student experience. The idea is to reduce cramming, reduce the pressure on students, promote a better family life, reduce the financial burden on parents, with the outcome being, they hope, that there'll be conditions where families will say, yeah, I'll have another child. I can now afford to do that. I've got the sort of emotional space to do it. We're a happier family, and we're going to go ahead and have more children. So that's really one of the key drivers behind all of these policies. So how will these changes affect you if you are tutoring online to kids in China? Well, I will say it's really hard to say at the moment because these are policies rather than laws. Okay, they may not be fully implemented. It might just be there's a sort of change in the system rather than a full overhaul. We'll have to yet wait and see. The other thing to say is that it depends perhaps on how some of these policies will be interpreted. So they affect companies, training companies registered in China. What if you're registered outside of China? What if you're registered as something else other than a training company? These are questions that will need to be answered. The other thing to say is they will soon be trialling some of these policies in 9 major cities in China, including Beijing and Shanghai. So I think we can all see the direction of travel here. So if you're an online educator, what can you do to mitigate some of these changes? What can you do to safeguard your salary, your income, and your career? Well, there are a few things I would suggest for you. I've been teaching English online for over 12 years. Change comes. Change isn't always welcome when it does come along, but it can create huge opportunities. So the immediate thing you can do if you're already teaching English online is just concentrate on being really, really good at what you do. Be on time. Focus on getting great reviews. Build up that reputation. If a partial cull happens and companies start getting rid of some teachers, but not all, you want to be in a position where you can stay, where they want you to stay. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is, begin to think about diversifying. Don't wait for these changes to happen before you start thinking about either networking through China, maybe asking your current employer whether they teach adults, maybe if you have network connections with parents in China, diversifying, trying to step outside just the current thing that you do. The other thing you can do is actually step out of China completely and broaden your student base. There are lots of online platforms where you can register your profile and students can come and find you. We're talking about companies like Verbling, iTalki, Preply. So they'll take a percentage of everything that you teach, but it can be a great opportunity to just broaden that student base so your eggs are not all in one basket. The third thing you might choose to do is actually go it alone as a freelance tutor. And I've got a number of programs where I help people step into that role, but maybe that's not for you. And it does take a bit of a mindset shift in terms of marketing and positioning yourself. But I've been doing that for over 12 years and I have never looked back. So there's just 3 things that you could be doing straight away. And what I've done is pop some links below, and I've written a blog on this very subject. So do check that out. So I really hope that's helpful. Good luck. And if you like what you've heard today, please do click subscribe.